It has been well said that there comes a time when the general defilement of a society becomes so great that the rising generation is put under undue pressure and cannot be said to have a fair choice between the way of light and the way of darkness.
As you can tell from that scratchy, low quality audio, we're going to be listening to a talk. This talk comes from then Apostle Ezra Taft Benson from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Since I am changing directions with how I'm going to be doing my podcast, YouTube channel, whatever you want to call it, I figure I'd do this little transition between what I was doing before, the music, and getting to where I want to be, talking about music, social issues, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, my faith, and my thoughts overall. And so I figured this is a good talk because it kind of brings all that together. It's a talk from the church, from an apostle, and it discusses music, the effect music has on us, and how that affects society as youth, and from those of us who are working to teach youth, whether it's our children, if you're a teacher, people at school, people within your church congregations, just youth that you know, your nieces, your nephews. This is a good transition to kind of go from what I was doing before music. So without further ado, here is a little bit of Ezra Taft Benson.
We live today in a wicked world. Never in our memory have the forces of evil been arrayed in such deadly formation. The devil is well organized. Never has he had so many emissaries working for him. Through his many agents, his satanic majesty has proclaimed his intentions to destroy one whole generation of our choice young people. Evidence of the dastardly work of evil forces is increasingly evident. On every side, we see the sad and heart-rending results. The devil-inspired destructive forces are present in our literature, in our art, in the movies, on the radio, in our dress, in our dances, on the TV screen, and even in modern so-called popular music.
Do you think he knew at this time, 50 years ago, how bad it was going to get? I don't think we're at the peak of misery and evil yet. I think we're still climbing that hill. But it's crazy that he speaks with so much passion on this topic 50 years ago. He's going to go on and talk about rock and roll in the 70s and how mind-twisting and mind-altering it was, and how dangerous it was for the emotional and spiritual well-being of the youth and all those who partake in it. Compare what the music from the 70s to today. Today's music, today's popular culture and entertainment makes 70s rock and roll look like child's play. It's no wonder that today's children, today's youth are so twisted and mangled up in their morals and their ideas and their thoughts. Because it is 10 times worse. It is 10 times more mind-numbing. It is 10 times more intellect-crushing, soul-devastating, the music and the entertainment that we have in our world today.
What are the mechanics of this process? Rhythm is the most physical element in music. It is the only element in music that can exist in bodily movement without benefit of sound. A mind dulled by drugs or alcohol can still respond to the beat. Loudness adds to muddling the mind. Sound magnified to the threshold of pain is of such physical violence as to block the higher processes of thought and reason. And turning down the volume of this destructive music does not remove the other evils. Repetition to the extreme is another primitive rock device. Gyrations, a twin to rock rhythm, are such that even clean hands and a pure heart cannot misinterpret their insinuations. Darkness and dim lights are another facet of the rock scene. It is a black mass that deadens the conscience in a mass of anonymity. Identity lost in darkness shrinks from the normal feelings of responsibility. Strobe lights split the darkness in blinding shafts that reduce resistance like the lights of an interrogator's third degree, or the swinging pendulum of the hypnotist who would control your behavior. The whole psychedelic design, this father continues, is a swinging door to drugs, sex, rebellion, and godlessness. Combined with the screaming obscenities of the lyrics, this mesmerizing music has borne the fruit of filth.
All of the mechanics and devices that they speak of in this section are spoken of from a perspective of rock and roll in the 70s. Now you think about these, when I was listening to these, I thought about them from the perspective of basically what you see in and they'll talk about this later, the music festivals that kids go to in 2023, and just the mind-numbing repetitiveness, the loudness, the tempo. And now, at least with rock and roll, like there were some lyrics, like there may have been some redeeming quality to the artistry of the music. But in today's world, these festivals that do EDM and other electro music, the dance music, the things where these people go, where they have stages and stages of people, of speakers built up to just blast sound at thousands of people. And it just follows all these mechanics perfectly, and where it's just numb. Like, I get music as an escape, but this is it's another level of distancing yourself from anything that makes you an individual. When you look out at these crowds of people, it is just zombies moving. They do the same thing. And my favorite is when a DJ gets involved and starts waving their hands left, right, and everyone's following. It is shocking to see how all these people pay money. Most of them are on drugs, so they buy their drugs, they go out with their friends, and just to see how much of that they do it out of rebellion. But in reality, you're being just like everybody else. You're in a crowd of hundreds to thousands of people doing exactly what they're doing. There's no individualism in any of this, other than maybe the DJ, who's in control at the top, doing whatever they want to do. But you're just following whatever the cues, the DJ, the music, everything gives to you. And it is clearly stated in this talk and through these wise minds of music and of religion and of spiritual wellness, that you're just surrendering your free will and choice, and you're just escaping through music, and how music can be a huge part of escaping issues or problems of life. But is it really worth it if it's setting you back in your well-being?
What could be more misguided than fear that if rock music were not endorsed by our leaders, we may lose many young people? Even now we are losing them to the songs of Satan, drugs, sex, riot, and apostasy. We could be well reminded by a passage from the Mormon miracle pageant. Quote, "Moroni knew that you cannot compromise with evil. If you do, evil always wins."
This is an idea that a lot of people have in the church, that you have to accept part of how the youth is living in order to keep them within the fold. And to me, that makes no sense, because you're basically just like holding their shirt as they go down this slippery slope of sin. I don't understand why we always have to come from a defensive perspective in aspects of the church, and especially when it comes to the youth. We shouldn't be playing defense. We should proactively move forward and tell the youth and be putting the youth in a better position to fight the battles that are coming at them and that are going to continue to come at them from all angles. And it doesn't help if we say, oh yeah, it's okay. It's okay to do some of that. Just stay close. Just keep coming to Young Men's on Wednesday. Just keep coming. Go and do what you want to. Because in reality, if you're just accepting them for that the short period of time every day that you have them, what good is that going to do anybody? Because obviously the bulk of their time is spent at school, with their friends, away from home. So you just pacifying what they do in all those other hours is not beneficial as a leader, as a parent, whatever it may be. You should be actively fighting. You should be actively giving them either some alternative or just setting boundaries of what is good and what is right, and openly communicating with them that is wrong. That makes no sense. That does not fall in line with the values that we teach and strive to follow. And I think we're in between two of these types of people.
The inspired Book of Mormon prophets saw our day, and as watchmen on the towers issued grave warnings. I quote, "For behold, at that day shall he, the devil, rage in the hearts of the children of men, and stir them up to anger against that which is good. And others will he pacify, and lull them away into carnal security, that they will say, "All is well in Zion. Yea, Zion prospereth, all is well." And thus the devil cheateth their souls, and leadeth them away carefully down to hell. And behold, others he flattereth away, and telleth them there is no hell. And he saith unto them, "I am no devil, for there is none." And thus he whispereth in their ears, until he grasps them with his awful chains, from whence there is no deliverance. Therefore woe be unto him that is at ease in Zion. Woe be unto him that crieth, "All is well." Yea, woe be unto him that hearkeneth unto the precepts of men, and denieth the power of God and the gift of the Holy Ghost.
We talked about the two people there. And I think it was a while ago where we were saying, all is well in Zion. Yea, Zion prospereth, all is well. That's where we were. We were saying everything's good. It's not that bad. These kids are good kids. They'll grow up. They'll grow out of it. But now, we're in the day and age when the devil is saying, "I am no devil, for there is none." And thus he whispereth in their ears until he grasps them with his awful chains, from whence there is no deliverance. He's lulling us into that sense of, there's no evil, there's no devil. Like, we've completely blown past the we'll get to the righteous bits. Now in today's world, it's all about there is no devil. We are just fine. And that's the end. That's where you can't come back from that. Once you've fallen down that hill, it's as people who are striving to not only learn the truth, but establish the truth as truth and be willing to fight for the truth, we have to be willing to put our foot down and take a stand, especially when it comes to our kids. Being a father, there's nothing that scares me more than improperly preparing my child for the evils that they will face in the world, and setting them up in the best possible position to not only defend themselves from those evils, but be able to fight against those evils. I don't believe in playing defense anymore. I don't think we can. I don't think we can sit back and not go on attack against those who are attacking the truth, those who are constantly pushing back against the truth.
Yes, the devil uses many tools. A state of confusion is an effective environment for Satan. There is much confusion today. He employs several methods to create it. One is the distortion of definitions. To describe a drug experience, he uses the term mind expanding, rather than the more accurate description of reality shrinking. Freedom, a word of noble tradition, is a favorite confuser. Riots, bombings, arson, and killings are committed in the name of freedom. Obscenities test the freedom of speech. Pornography, drugs, and immorality are claimed to be manifestations of personal freedom, along with miniskirts and nudity. License and anarchy are products of these false freedoms.
Now, that is a statement that rings more true now than ever. The distortion of definitions is I would say, the key tool of Satan and the adversary today. Because there are so many things that are either good that are now described as evil. We can't define what gender is. The definitions, the language by which I operate, English, has just been changed and completely molded to fit a narrative that I do not agree with, and just molded to be whatever Satan, whatever his minions want it to be. And they talk about the mind expanding of drugs as opposed to reality shrinking, and just the distortion of the word freedom. That's where we are in today's world. And this is 50 years ago, and what he's saying now couldn't be more true. We're screwed because we can't even, it's hard to establish truth or win an argument when we're not even using the same dictionary to define or explain these things.
Ridicule works well in collaboration with confusion. To confuse youth in its searching years, the cynic defends his degeneracy by ridiculing his critics with confusing metaphors. The philosophy of relativism attacks the eternal principles of truth. The relativist will say, if one sees filthy implications in a popular song, it is because he has a dirty mind.
This quote's hilarious to me because this is how it goes these days. If you're seeing it, it's all projecting, right? Or if you're projecting that they're projecting, that he's projecting, that you're projecting. So if you say someone is insecure, they're just going to come back at you and say, it's because you're insecure. It's because you don't know who you are. And that's another tool, another device of the adversary. He's just twisting what the truth is. And so if you point out and say, that doesn't seem right, that song sounds disgusting, what he said there, the double entendre of what this person used in that song is disgusting. I'm like, well, it's only disgusting because your mind's in the gutter. Like, you hear that all the time. You hear that every day. You hear that about everything in pop culture. Well, it's only evil because you're a religious bigot and you think it's evil. That's just like the status quo of today's world. We can't imagine how bad it's going to get. I don't know if Ezra Taft Benson in 1971 knew how bad it was going to get. He seemed to get pretty choked up over what was happening with rock and roll in the 70s. I could not imagine his reaction to trap, to drill music, just to the outrageous filth and garbage that is consumed on a daily basis by the billions of people in the world. And hoping that I can find ways to combat it. I'm hoping that you got some ways to combat it. And I'm hoping that we don't stop trying to fight against it. I know of some good people that are putting in the work to try and figure out how to preserve the youth and raise up the next righteous generation. But it's going to be hard, and it's only going to get harder. So, with that, good luck. See you next time.